We're back for another Red Cup Talks, and today our guest is Miss Suereyya Brooks. How are you?
Hi, everyone. Hi, Micca. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I'm really, really excited. I
Yes.
cannot wait to get into the conversation that's very much needed. And this is my first podcast invitation from a lady. So thank you so much for that.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good to know, and thank you for coming on. Um, why I'm surprised. Like you went viral, right? And I understand it, the context that we'll get into, but I'm surprised content creators, whether male or female, still didn't reach out to you,
I
right?
mean, yeah, I mean, some of them did, but the ones who really create, I mean, the content creators that are like really big, like Anton Daniels, really didn't waste any time. Like the video was
Mm-hmm.
like, hey, you ready? You got time tonight? And I was like, oh, okay, what about tomorrow? Because I'm not in town. But as far as like female content creators, I don't know if you have seen the video of Danica. She has critiqued my video in a very positive way, some real comments, which I totally loved. And Didi also talked about my video. Yeah, totally appreciated that as well. But as far as like a female content creator that has reached out to me, like you did, for instance, no.
Oh man, I mean, I think it's an important conversation to have, right? Whether like my whole goal is always whether or not I agree with you,
Hmm.
right? And we'll get into what I thought about it, but whether or not I agree with someone doesn't stop me from wanting to understand their thought process, and maybe it's something that I may be missing, maybe not, but I won't know until I actually have a conversation. The first thing I want to ask you is, did you know what you were saying was going to go viral?
Absolutely not. Going viral was never my intentions to begin with. I would just wanted to really spread a certain message. And I was here thinking to myself, just continue creating your content. Either people are going to pick it up, like it or not like it. And but as far as going viral, no, I had no intentions. I had no idea. It just literally came out of nowhere. But then again, let's not forget for what it actually went viral for. It was the message and the caption. That combination of both really had a lot of people saying, yes, she's absolutely right, and a lot of women furious, as you probably know yourself already.
Yeah, that was the first thing I got like in my inbox. Like, did you see this? Did you see this? Did you see this? Right? Because people send me a lot of videos and things to react to. But when I saw it, that was the first thing I saw in the caption, right? And luckily for me, I'm not a triggered person, right? I'll see something, and being a content creator, you understand clickbait and things like that. So I'm like, okay, let's just see, what she said. Um, and I'm probably going to catch flag for this. I didn't see the problem in what you said,
Mhm.
right? And the reason I didn't is because I grew up in that home, right? You mentioned, Anton Daniels. So Anton and other content creators can tell you that I talk about it all the time. I grew up in a two-parent home. I come from a long line of housewives. So I know what that looks like. So I understood what you were talking about, right? But with that being said, that's my area expertise, right? I know that when you're not exposed to that, I don't think you understand that, right? So it seems more so as an attack because you've never seen that. You didn't grow up in that environment, and you don't have that knowledge of how that actually works, right? And then I think also too there's a cultural difference, right? So like I told you, I grew up in a two-parent household, but culturally, I grew up in America, right?
Right.
So I can see both sides, but a lot of the times we're here in America, a lot of us are taught to be, independent, to be, not care about a man, things like that. Luckily for me, my household, combated that outside force, right? But I still saw it.
Right.
So I already knew once I saw your video where they were going to go with it, right?
Right.
So that was already there. But let's take it even further. the narrative became Black women.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I understood the part where you were talking about um, your spouse and having his family had never shown him certain things, right? And so, being that your spouse is Black, do you think that's what sent it over the edge? Because I never particularly heard you say Black women.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think talking about his family, knowing that his family is Black, that they pretty much stamped it as you talking about Black women?
Well, I believe it was a combination of both. It was really the fact that my husband is Black and the caption where I said Black women have no competition, which automatically put me in a position of saying something like, look, I'm not Black, but my husband is. I was just the best one that was available, and everybody else, all Black women, weren't, which is absolutely not what I stand for, which was not my statement at all. But I think that's what kind of took it out of context. And that's why all of these women got mad, because I looked at a lot of reaction videos. Obviously, a lot of people sent me a lot of videos and they're still sending them to me. And there are a lot of women who say, you don't know nothing about a Black man's life. You don't know nothing about a Black household. Everything is Black. And I'm just thinking to myself, okay, I understand that, but I never mentioned it like that. You know what I mean? So I really believe it was a combination of both. And of course, me not being Black as well played a part too, for a reason why these women got on that.
Yeah, I definitely think that part there. But you would be, you would be inaccurate in what you were talking about if you weren't talking about his family upbringing and things like that. So I don't think you were attacking the actual race of his family. You were basically talking about how his family upbringing was. And the fact that he's Black, I think, is a soft spot to a lot of Black American women, only because of the relationship dynamic here in America, right? So in Germany, I want to know how that relationship dynamic is with you being a German woman and your spouse being a Black man.
Mhm. Well, actually, first of all, just to say it correctly, I am not German. I'm Turkish.
Okay.
My parents, yeah, but a lot of course, the internet knows me as the German woman, right? Because I always refer to the fact that I'm from Germany and everything like that. But I'm Turkish. I just live in Germany. I've been born and raised here. My parents immigrated from Turkey to Germany in the late 70s. But to
Okay.
answer your question, I come from a Turkish traditional household, which was the reason why I had this cultural shock when I came from my household, my loving, caring, environment, to
Right.
the colder version of households. Let me just say it like that. But my husband being Black and me being Turkish, really in my family and in my environment never has been a problem, because my family welcomed him and said, as long as he loves you, he's just welcomed into our family, which was very important to me, because before my husband, my parents never knew of me of having a boyfriend, because that's an absolute no-no in our family. Like, there is no dating phase, there is no bringing home multiple boyfriends, because it's a respect thing. We don't do that. So, but as far as being an interracial couple here in Germany, it is very much known. People are used to it. There is no big deal. There are so many interracial couples over here. Like, it's not like people will point the finger at us, or the Turkish community point their finger at us. Not at all. Everybody is very open to it and is very welcoming, which I appreciate. It saves us a lot of drama.
Yes, because you would think, right, with America seemingly so progressive, that this wouldn't even be a thing, right? But it still is. My family background is also mixed race, right? And so the dynamic there, I'm also very familiar with, because of the challenges that it presents here in America. That's why I was very curious about how it presented in Germany, because it can also come off, I guess, that you don't know the challenges here in America with one, race relations, two, race relations with Black and white people, right? And I think that set off a whole narrative of, well, the white woman is telling the Black woman how she should be, how she should operate. When I took it as, and this is just my opinion, I took it as you telling women, preferably American or Western women, that a lot of the things that are going on are not benefiting us. I talk about it a lot. I talk about it with other women a lot. I get a lot of pushback. I get, the pick me's. I don't care. But I get that all the time. I don't care. I'm fine. But I think with you, it's even a little more, it's heightened because you're you're a full white woman, right? So with that aspect, do you think maybe going forward, and this is just a question, but do you think maybe going forward you might be more conscious to it, more sensitive to it, or how do you plan to move when you do your content now going forward, ever since this is, viral?
Well, I'm gonna keep it just as real as I did in my previous videos, because
Please do.
yeah, I will address modern Western women every time when I can, especially if there's any type of advice I can give them. Because you have to imagine, you are located in America. I'm in Germany. The world is a big place. Everything that you guys do in America, we see it on our news feed. We don't see everything that's going on in our town. We're looking at America. The whole world is. So I'm coming across all of this content, all of these videos where women talk down on American men, especially average men. And that's where I started talking about this. Wait a minute, what's wrong with an average man? I have an average man sitting at home. There's absolutely nothing wrong with him. I'm an average woman. He's an average man. And we're still making this work over 2 decades now. You know what I mean? And that's basically my main focus. There's nothing wrong with an average man. He doesn't have to, earn your respect. Respect is a basic thing. Cooking and cleaning is a basic thing. So that's why I don't even understand why the womanhood got so mad at me making fruit bowls for my husband. These are basic things, Really no reason to do that. It's nothing special. I don't want to pat on my back for that. I'm just setting examples like try to be in your feminine energy. Having your guard up all the time as a woman, it is hard. Being negative, it's hard. It just feels so much better being joyful, being in a good mood. You will, that other people will pick that energy up, And I heard so many women say, I cannot find a man that matches my energy. And I'm just thinking to myself, if you're always in a low frequency, as far as your energy, that is what you're going to attract. You cannot be miserable, negative, upset all the time and then expect beautiful results, So
I agree with that 100%. I talk about energy, frequency, spirits, all of that all the time because it really matters how you present yourself. And I think here in America, we put a lot of things first before respect. We put a lot of things before our families. We put a lot of things first before the things that matter. Let's just say that. And so I think that what you said hit a nerve, not only for the things I already stated, but for the fact that there's a independent outside person looking in. And I honestly and truly, I really don't think too much all the way that it mattered that you are white. Because I think if you had been Black, maybe like an African woman from an African country, they would have said the same because you're the outside looking in, right? And then you have the, how women think here with the shortage of men, as they say. I don't think it's a shortage of men, but we're going to their talking points. Shortage of men, that don't make as much because the average man here probably makes like, I think like 50,000, and that's probably on the high end. So a lot of women are vying for the same man. They're going after the same man, and if they're all going after the same man, it's not enough for them, right? So that's where I think the shortage is coming from. But in your country, you're saying that average men are a dime a dozen, and everybody's okay with it. So what do you think American women can do to open their perspectives to going to an average, quote unquote, average man making average earning and still having a level of respect for him?
It always comes back to growing up in a two-parent household and feel lucky enough to have traditional values, because that's what I have seen. I have seen that females in my family always respected the males, and they all went to work. They all had a 40-hour job, making average amount of money, but the respect level has never changed. Women still cooked, they still cleaned, did their thing. But as far as Germany here, I would have to say some ladies in America maybe would have to ask themselves, why am I striving for this high value man? I mean, these women, most of the time, they make average money themselves. So why do you consider yourself to be better than the average man? That you probably qualify more than for a high value man. I think women just have to be a little bit more realistic with themselves. And also another point that I have to make is the sexual marketplace value. Men determine that. A woman never does. I can just be so convinced of myself, think that I'm the most beautiful, the most desired woman in my own little world, but at the end of the day, men are looking at me in a complete different light. So just be more realistic with yourself, and there's nothing wrong with the average man. Like I said, why does an average woman go for the high value man? It's just for material benefits, isn't it? They just
Now,
benefit.
now, Miss Brooks, Mrs.
Mm.
Brooks, talking about realistic standards in America, because nothing, I mean, nothing here in America is realistic. Everything is over the top. And this is outside of relationships. Everything is over the top, right? You got to have the biggest house. You got to have the biggest this, biggest that. So relationships just, to me, just falls right in line with it. But I think if we're being, realistic, a lot of this stuff is pushed to the average American woman, and there is of course, a bit of your own self responsibility to navigate those waters. But how you said you grown up in a two-parent household, how I've said I've grown up in a two-parent household, even if we see that stuff, right, we can dismiss it and say, well, that's not what I see, right? Because I've seen a lot of women say that, well, she's a slave and she wants to do slavery her life. She wants to raise her man, then let her raise him, right? um and I just think that's a negative point of view to look at how you serve your family, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
But the reality is that is what is being taught here to
I know.
young women, not just the older ones, to young women from a small point, meaning 4 or 5 years old. I could do it myself. I could do it myself, and I think a lot of the countries outside of America really can see this. Um,
Absolutely.
so your viewpoint is, to me, is very much needed. But I want to touch on something you also said when you talk about interracial dating. A lot of the women talked about how, well, why aren't you with a German man?
Mm.
So I want to talk about how you dated before you met your husband.
Okay. Not at all, to be honest with you,
Okay.
because like I said, I grew up in a Turkish household, and having a boyfriend was always you're not going to have a boyfriend. We're Turkish. We don't do that. But I know a lot of women say, why didn't German men want you? You're the bottom of the barrel. Nobody wanted you. That's why you married the bottom of the barrel from America. These are comments that I'm reading every day. I always wanted to have a Black American man. That was what I wanted. That was what I liked. The only time when I seen a Black American man was on television, and I was like, I want a Black American guy. Always been attracted to them. Yeah, growing up, I was listening to Tupac. I was watching Warren G, Snoop Dogg, and I'm like, I like
I
the
know
way
it's
they. Yeah, I love the way they dress. I love the style, the clothing. I'm watching interviews, trying to make up what they are saying, because I was in school learning the British Oxford English. I didn't know nothing about no American way of talking as far as like the English and everything.
right.
I just fell in love with it. I had it in me, obviously, because I was never attracted to Turkish men, never attracted to German men or anything else. It was
Yeah.
always Black American men.
Right, and there's nothing wrong with having a preference. Obviously, there are white men who are attracted to Black women, Latino women. So there's obviously nothing wrong with it. Again, I just think it comes back down to how it's being promoted to the women. It's being promoted as you're better. Um, he wants you only because you're white, right? And then you got to think too, right? So there's a big movement, as you probably know, with the passport bros and
Mm-hmm.
like that, where some of them are just going to find women, and then others are going to do other nefarious things, and that all gets jumbled into the same pot to me, and then it gets pushed out to women a certain way, right? And I think if we can actually peel back those layers and look at what's really happening, and I think that's what your video spoke to. What's really happening? Are they going there because they're white, or are they going there because they're seeking something that they're not getting, right?
Mm-hmm.
Outside of the nefarious things.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, are there men that you do see that come over to where you are in Germany and have not a preference, but kind of see you as that exotic, that something that I never have? And how do you take to that? Like, how do you feel about being seen that way, if that's ever happened with you?
You mean me personally?
Yes.
See, I met my husband in America, so we were never in like this passport bro situation. But as far as to refer back to your question, are men leaving the US to find something that they cannot have in America? I assume you're talking about the treatment of men, which is a
Yes.
lot different over here. So, and I'm going to be very honest with you. I'm very aware of the fact that my husband probably would have loved to marry an American woman, a Black
Mhm.
American woman. He would have loved to. And he just told me honestly, he didn't want to deal with the attitude. He didn't want to deal with the entitlement. He didn't want to deal with the disrespect and everything else. Like, I'm not going to get into more further details, but those three things he was missing, which I gave him though. I gave him naturally because I learned that from home. And that is something, because I talk to a lot of men who are in
Mhm.
America and who want to come here to meet women. I talk to them and they say the same thing. So it's not even about anybody's looks. It's really about how they carry themselves and how they treat the men. That's the biggest discrepancy between the dynamics between American men and American women. That's why they come here.
Mm. So, what has been the response in your home country to your viral video? Like, has anyone in, your town or wherever you live seen your video and reacted to it?
I no, absolutely not. What did
Okay.
happen? What happened was that my content is English, so obviously I don't pop up on people's news feed here in Germany. Nobody has recognized me or anything like that. But I do have a couple of people who subscribe to my channel and also follow me on Instagram who said, "I've seen your video. I like what you represent, and you're telling the truth. You're speaking up about it." And these are women in Germany who are in sometimes long distance relationship and also relationships with American men, and they just love the fact that I'm speaking up because nobody has done this before. Nobody from Germany was like, "Hey, like American men, we're here, we just adore you and we're here in relationships with you." But as far as like here in Germany, my hometown, no, nobody knows, and it's a good thing. I don't want to.
Yeah, because they will. Well, maybe it's an American thing, but if you go viral or they see you, they think they know you and they just walk right up to you. I'm telling you,
Okay, well, that's
it's
okay.
so okay. So with American women, do
Mhm,
you have any American? Because I know you live in Germany, but do
mhm.
you have any American friends? Do you have anyone that gives you, outside of videos that you can see? Do you have anyone that gives you any insight to how American relationships are from the inside? Like,
I mean, yes, I do have American friends, but I also lived in America myself. So what I'm speaking about in that, especially in that one particular video, it's not from me hearing things. I've seen it. I was there. I observed it, and I was like, "Wow, this is crazy. Something is wrong here. Something's not right here," which was the reason also why I started speaking about these things. Because I feel as though that a lot of women want to be in a relationship, obviously, but they're just doing everything not to be in a relationship. And I'm just like, hey, maybe you want to try this, maybe you want to try that, maybe that will work out for you one day, you know. And I'm just glad that some women actually do agree with me, and hopefully they can apply some of the things I said.
Okay, so let's get to the women that do agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
So, what were some of the for some of the people that haven't seen the women that do agree with you? What were some of the talking points that they wanted to bring up, that they wanted to stress, that they thought American women could learn from?
Mm-hmm. Letting the man finish, like don't interrupt the man while he's talking. Don't
Okay.
raise your voice. Like, I'm not a man. My husband never screams for one, so why would I scream at him? I would never challenge my husband, you know, and the catering, the nurturing home. That's my duty. Whatever I create within these four walls, making it comfortable, you know, making sure it smells like banana bread when my husband comes home from work, you know,
I
that
like
it's like,
the
yeah, you know, I mean,
yeah, I'm coming for that.
I mean, I'm responsible for these things, you know, and that's like something I believe that a lot of women agreed with. And they also said, some of them said, I never had the privilege to grow up in a two-parent household. I never
Mm,
learned what it means to care and respect a man. But still, this is something that you can learn. Just like you have been taught not to respect a man, you can learn how to respect a man. It is never too late, you know. So I love that. I really love that. And I love the fact that some women said, you know what, that German lady, she said whatever she had to say. A lot of you didn't like it, but I liked it. And she was right. It's not even about the fact of me being right. It's about the fact that somebody could take something out of my message and apply that into their personal life to get better results. That's a win-win situation.
yes, most definitely. And one of the things that you said that I thought was really profound is that you thought you were just doing something normal,
Hmm.
right? Which means you didn't think you were going above and beyond.
No.
Something like that here, for whatever reason, is above and beyond, right? And so when you think that you're going above and beyond, now you feel like you're doing more than you have to.
Hmm.
When honestly and truly, you're really doing the bare minimum to
Absolutely.
maintain a relationship. Like if you're not doing anything else, this is what you should be doing, right?
Exactly.
And so I think that was a focal point that a lot of women didn't understand. And to me, they took it in such a derogatory way. So when you grow up in these two parent households in Germany, who is it that actually installs that type of womanhood in you? Is it the mother? And this is for the women that don't know anything about how do you get to that point. Is it your mother that installs that in you, or is it your father? Like who teaches you these things in womanhood and how to treat a man once you become a wife?
Both. That's why it's so important to grow up in a two-parent household where each know their role. Because my mom was the one teaching me in the kitchen. You know, you have to do it this way, you have to cook like this, you know, how to fold the laundry, how to wash clothes and stuff like that, and how to conduct myself. And my father is the one who tells me, look, men don't like this in women. Men don't like that in women. Make sure you never show yourself to another man because whatever your body is like, don't, it's exclusive to your man. You know,
Mm.
that's why you would never see me running around showing my cleavage or deceptive pictures online, which is very normal to everyone nowadays. To me, it is absolutely no. I don't do that. So
Yeah.
that's why both is important because you have to have their perspective. You have to have your father's perspective of everything and your mother's perspective. You know, that's why both have like a different understanding of a woman in a relationship. My mom is telling me the nurturing part, and my father is basically teaching me how to behave and, you know, present myself in public to a man. That's why both of them are equally important.
So here in America, most women work, right?
Mhm.
So they're not in a traditional home like I said I grew up in, right? My parents, my mother didn't work, my grandmother didn't work, and so on and so on. So how would women that work, and this is to the women that want to take your advice and benefit from it, they work. How can they incorporate what you're talking about into their busy schedule, on top of maybe some of them having children? Like, how can they incorporate some traditional values while still being modern?
I mean, you have to know with every decision, every decision that we make, there are consequences. So if I decide to follow these modern women trends, there's going to be a consequence with it, right? And it's just so important to keep these traditional values ongoing because we live in such a modern world, you know, which becomes crazier with every day. So as far as your question, I mean, it all depends the level of respect, which I believe is a huge factor that can always be worked on. You know, don't no smart comments. I know us women can have a very foul, very slick mouth sometimes. You know, especially when it's that time of the month. This gets worse those days. That the attitude. You know, don't let your man ask for anything. Try to read that man's body language. Like with my husband, I know when he wants something. When he's about to get up and get something to drink, I'm like, no, wait, chill. I have it. I got it. I will bring you a cup of water, tea, whatever. You know, it's just really these little things. Like us women, we have a strong intuition. We should be able to sense what our man wants.
I
And know.
say that all the time. They talk to me about this woman's intuition all the time, right? And I do believe that we have it, but they don't use it.
They
I'm
don't.
like, and then they're the victim, right? And then I'm like, but you have woman's intuition. You knew it was going to happen. Why didn't you just? Yeah. So
Exactly.
we do have it, but I think something that you just said is a big one. That's going to be very hard. The mouth.
Mm-hmm. I know.
That to me probably is 99.999% of the modern American woman's problem. The talking, the I'm gonna do what I want, even if after they finish saying it, they don't even believe it, they don't want to do it. They've said it. How do you combat emotions and feelings when something maybe that your spouse might say that might make you, wanna
Mm.
just lash out? But how do you control that?
You gotta stay on top of your emotions. Like us women are very emotional. I don't have to,
Mhm.
mention that, but we are able to control those emotions. Why do I say this? When we are at work and a supervisor is telling us something that we don't like, and I'm sure that had happened before, we know how to control those emotions and that foul mouth all of a sudden. That works. So why can't we come home to our men and show them the same amount of respect? If I can control my mouth outside of my home, I should be able to do the same thing inside of my home, you know? And I had those moments too with my husband, obviously, when we argue, that's normal. I feel my blood pressure rising. I'm not going to lie to you, but then I developed the ability to be like, you know what, Suereyya, calm down, take a breather internally, and then I stay on a different level. I could take the whole argumentative conversation on a different level if I want to, just from the way I talk alone. But if I can just keep it here, why not? You know, the outcome is always going to be better. So yes, we can control our mouth if we want to.
Yeah, and I think that what you just said, when women watch it, whether they, like you or not, agree with you or not, they can look at you not just from a content creator trying to, say certain things. They can look at what you just said, that you do have those moments, right? Because I guess they feel, from a lot of what I've gotten, they feel like she's acting like she's never this, she's never that, right? And so to me, what you just said brings it back. Like, I have those same moments that you have, but I
Right.
respond to it differently. I don't respond, with vitriol. I respond once I've calmed down, once I think. I got a saying that I say to my friends, because my the women here, you just got to work with them. But I have a saying I say to my friends. I'm like, just say okay.
I mean, it's even okay to say, hey, can we talk about this a little later? And
Yeah,
then
just say okay. Just say
exactly,
okay.
I
And
need a moment.
yeah, and I'm like, I guarantee you, give it time. You either come back and can talk clearly about it, or you might even forget about it and say it's not even that serious.
Yeah, because most of the
Right?
time argue and we take it on a different level, we come back, we take a couple of moments and say, man, that was so unnecessary. I shouldn't have said that, which actually is a lot of times this is happening. Women say things and then they say, I didn't mean to say that. So why, don't say it right from the beginning.
Yeah, and I try to tell women a lot of the times that men take things that you say differently than women. So one of my last questions to you is, how do you have an understanding for what your man wants, right? Like, how do you understand each and every point, from what he wants maybe physically, to what he may want out of life, to what he may want, just, something surface level. Like, how do you understand that, and how do you present it?
Hmm. As far as when he talks to me or when I sense that he wants something.
When you sense it,
Okay,
like,
well,
how do you sense that? Like, what happens? Like, what's the alert button that goes off? Because a lot of women don't, like, they swear they don't know what's happening. So what
right.
is the trigger, the alert button that goes off for you to be like, my man wants something?
Mhm. Well, you read his body language, and you
Mm.
can only read somebody's body language when you actually care about how that person is moving in different situations. Is he comfortable? I can think he's comfortable when we are out somewhere with my friends, and this happened a lot when he came to Germany right in the beginning. But he wasn't comfortable, and I was able to sense that just because of the way he was moving, the way he's standing. Does he have his hands in his pockets? Like, you really have to observe and read your partner, but you can only do that when you genuinely care about that person. When you're just with that person, you just care about yourself. You're not going to have the room to read the person, to learn about the person. How does he feel in these situations? And of course, another thing that helped me to learn how to sense what he wants is speaking to him. I talked to him. How did you feel about this? How did you feel about that? That's how you get used to how he feels about things,
Mm.
without him having to say anything in the future. You're just like, okay, I remember we had this conversation. If this and that happens, he's going to feel like this and that. It's just all about reading, understanding, observing the person.
Well, I can tell you just by talking to you, I don't think you're a malicious person at all. I enjoyed your content. I watched a couple more videos, so I definitely enjoyed your content. So, what do you want people to get from your content?
Well, most definitely try to learn from me. I am not perfect, but the things that have worked for me and my relationship and my personal development in my relationship, try to take some example from me and apply that into your relationship. But it all is going to begin with working on yourself. If you're not open to new information and not receptive to it, you will never be able to apply it. People always tend to say knowledge is power, but to me, it only becomes power when you actually apply that knowledge. So I can read all the books that I can. It doesn't mean anything at the end of the day if I cannot apply that knowledge. But take my content as some educational support, I guess. And I also talk about things that have not worked out for myself, just maybe I can prevent someone else to have the experience that I had in my personal life in a relationship. And yeah, and just try it. I just really want to help women to learn to understand themselves better and also their partners so they can function better, because like I said earlier, we have the power to lead the relationship just with our energy alone, you know so that's my main goal.
I think that is beautiful. Like that, and this was the reason why I really wanted to bring you on, because I just really wanted to hear from your own mouth what you thought, your opinions, and just how you operated outside of the content creator, Suereyya Brooks. So I want to thank you, because I know you have other things to do. I want to thank you for coming on and at least having a conversation with not only a woman, but a woman of color, so we can actually try to start bridging that gap and maybe learning other things from each other, being that we have different cultures and different thought processes. So I
Right.
really do thank you for coming on.
Thank
And
you.
I will make sure I have all of your social media contacts so people can go and view your content, because I really do think it's good informational content.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much that you reached out to me. Like I said, it really meant a lot to me, and I'm happy that I could clarify some things, and just be on here and speak from woman to woman, because at the end of the day, it's not a color thing. We are women, and what do us
Ma'am.
women want? We want to be in a functional relationship, so why not spread the info and the knowledge that I have? So
Yes, ma'am. I love it. And with that, thank you for coming.
thank you for having me. I appreciate it so much.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.